When people talk about ramen in Hokkaido, the two giants are usually Sapporo miso ramen, made with fermented soybean paste broth, and Asahikawa shoyu ramen, a soy sauce based style. But what really makes Hokkaido ramen special goes beyond the labels. The noodles are often fantastic, the styles are surprisingly varied, and after spending even a few months away, this is exactly the kind of food that starts haunting your memory. Today, we're sharing some of our favourite ramen in Hokkaido. When it comes to Asahikawa ramen, one of the first things that stands out is the noodle itself. Compared with Sapporo style noodles, these are lower hydration noodles, meaning they contain less water and have a firmer, wheatier character. They have a real personality, but they also come with a little pressure. If you wait a little too long, they soften quickly. So this bowl creates a funny kind of dilemma. The soup is piping hot, but you still want to eat fast before the noodles lose their bite. That urgency is part of the charm. The broth is rich, hot and deeply satisfying, and the whole experience feels specific to this style of ramen. There's also a bit of local history here. The shop is Hachiya, and the story includes an earlier connection to the honey-based ice cream. It's the kind of small detail that makes the place feel rooted in local culture, not just like another ramen shop. Next is Obihiro, which may not be the first city people associate with ramen, but there are some excellent bowls here. This shop, Tonpei, is usually known for its saltier ramen, a cleaner, lighter broth style often called shio ramen, though the shoyu ramen also gets high praise. The impression here is that almost everything on the menu is good. The style leans a little toward Asahikawa, with thin, curly, low hydration noodles that grab onto the broth beautifully. There's also mention that the owner may have come from an Asahikawa ramen background, which would explain why this bowl carries that same quiet confidence. This is the kind of place you'd want near your house. Not flashy, not trendy, just reliably delicious. And this is a good place to explain what this channel is really about. This is a channel run by a couple living in Sapporo, always travelling in search of delicious food. They only introduce places they personally tried and genuinely want to eat again. This is not about trendy new openings, and even if a place is famous, if they tried it and it didn't really impress them, it doesn't get featured. A lot of TV food shows make everything sound delicious, and that's understandable. If a crew has already arranged filming and gotten permission, they're hardly going to go on air and say the food wasn't very good. This channel was built around a different idea. The goal is to communicate taste more honestly. The rule is simple. If it wasn't good enough to want again, it doesn't get featured. Next up is Tantanmen 175 DENO. A spicy sesame ramen inspired by Sichuan flavors, and this one sounds seriously addictive. The owner is said to have gone all the way into Sichuan, met producers directly, and sourced ingredients firsthand. The chili oil is also made in-house, using carefully selected spices and oil. That kind of commitment already tells you this isn't just casual spice for shock value. And apparently, the result is excellent. This is not just spicy ramen. It's the kind of bowl built around that numbing, tingling Sichuan sensation that keeps pulling you back in. If you don't enjoy heat, this might not be the one for you. But if you love spicy food with depth and real character, this sounds like a standout. Now we move to Takara Ya, a long-established ramen shop near Wakkanai station, dating back to the Showa era. This is the sort of old-school ramen that looks simple at first, but wins you over with balance. The salt ramen, or shio ramen, is the star here. A lot of salt ramen can end up too sharp, too plain, or just a little unsatisfying, but this one seems to avoid all of those traps. It has a gentle flavour, but still enough depth and persuasion to keep you drinking the soup right to the end. Salt ramen is often associated with Hakodate, so it's nice to see a bowl from Wakkanai make such a strong case for itself. The next bowl at Ame wa Yasashiku sounds like one of the most memorable in the entire video. It's a chicken paitan ramen, meaning a thick, cloudy chicken broth, served with a liver paste that you gradually dissolve over the soup as you eat. The idea is that the bowl changes as you go, almost like it has its own progression from beginning to end. The shop itself is described as stylish, more like a dining bar than a traditional ramen shop, and the bowl looks beautiful. But this is not style over substance, the flavour is clearly the point. There's careful prep, visible attention to detail, and toppings that feel deliberately layered. 2 kinds of cashew, meaning braised or roasted pork slices, 2 kinds of burdock root, and a sense that the ingredients are being treated with real respect. It also seems to draw more women than a typical ramen shop, which makes sense for a bowl that sounds refined, gentle, and thoughtfully built. It may cost more than it once did, but is presented as a bowl worth paying for. Then we get the Chuuka Jigen Shuka, a popular Chinese style spot with a dish that sounds like a potential disaster on paper, Katsu Kare Ramen. Now, ramen is great. Katsu, a breaded cutlet, is great. Japanese curry is great. But combine them and you start to wonder whether this is genius or a crime scene. Apparently this one works. Instead of being heavy and chaotic, it comes across more like a lighter, salt ramen with curry layered into it. Even the katsu somehow stays surprisingly crisp, despite sitting in the soup. So yes, it sounds strange, but this is exactly the kind of bowl that can turn a skeptic into a believer. This next shop, Haruichiya Sandaime Menjuku Honten, sits across from a very famous miso ramen heavyweight. At first, you might assume people only end up here because the other place has a huge line, but this place seems to be drawing a crowd of its own. Then you look at the menu and you see the hook, shrimp ramen. Not just shrimp ramen either, but a version paired with kakiage style shrimp topping, a kind of loose shrimp and vegetable fritter, and a rich yet gentle shrimp forward soup. That combination clearly made a strong impression. In fact, it comes across like one of the surprise favourites in the whole lineup. This feels like a proper dark horse, the kind of place people might walk into by accident, then remember because the food turned out to be genuinely excellent. Next is a bowl from Men-Eiji Hiragishi Base that sounds genuinely inventive. This shop became known for putting jelly on ramen, specifically a yuzu-scented Japanese stock jelly. Yuzu is a fragrant Japanese citrus, and here that jelly is layered into a rich seafood tonkotsu style bowl. Tonkotsu refers to a creamy pork bone broth, and in this case, it sounds like that richness is balanced by the citrus freshness. It sounds strange at first, but the logic behind it is actually smart. Rich ramen can be delicious in the beginning, but sometimes you start getting tired of it halfway through. So instead of just pushing more intensity, this bowl adds brightness and acidity. That yuzu jelly changes the pace of the ramen and keeps it lively all the way through. There's even a finishing element at the table, a kind of soup wari style addition to thin and extend the broth, which makes the whole experience feel even more considered. This is the kind of ramen that experiments without losing sight of why the bowl works. Then we get to one of the big names, Saimi. The reputation here is serious, and while there's some skepticism about ranking sites in general, this seems to be one of those rare cases where the hype actually feels deserved. The first thing that hits you is the aroma when the bowl arrives. That alone is described as enough to make an impression. There's also a strong feeling that the cooking process differs from standard miso ramen because the bean sprouts stay unusually crisp. What really defines this bowl is the combination: a gentler miso broth, sharply crisp bean sprouts, a deeply appetizing roasted aroma, and excellent noodles. Plenty of shops may try to live in the same lane, but this one still comes across as one of the strongest examples. And finally, something completely different: tokuichi. This is the kind of ramen that some people might refuse to call ramen at all. It sounds modern, unconventional, and influenced by broader culinary ideas, almost like a dish shaped by French or Italian style thinking. So if what you want is classic, old school Sapporo ramen experience, this is not the place. But if you're interested in something more cutting edge, something that pushes ramen in a more creative direction while still being serious, this bowl sounds like it absolutely earns its place. It may not be traditional, but it still sounds like a very good bowl of ramen. So those are some of our favourite ramen shops in Hokkaido. This list ends up leaning heavily towards Sapporo, which is only natural, but even after narrowing it down to 10, there are still plenty more places worth talking about. And that's really the spirit of Meshitabi: not chasing trends, not introducing places just because they're famous, but sharing the places they truly want to eat at again. If you know a great local spot in Hokkaido, keep the recommendations coming. And if you love ramen, there's more where this came from. Thanks for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, we'd appreciate it if you could like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out. Also, if you have any other recommendations of ramen stores to visit, please write them down in the comments. If you'd like to know more about any of the ramen stores that we visited in this video, please check the description down below.